as usual, I'm laying in this background real quickly. I've gone ahead and gessoed my stretched canvas here. This is a cotton stretched canvas, 16 by 20. I added some black gesso. It's going to be a very dark painting. And then I've mixed a nice little gray color here for my sky, which I used ultramarine blue, I used burnt umber, and just in about equal portions of that with a little bit of white, create that nice gray color, a little bit more on the blue side perhaps. And now I'm just kind of scumbling in, kind of more of a dry brush technique here using my filbert brush. And I've just mixed a nice pale yellow color here using a bit of cad yellow and titanium white and just a hint of cad orange. And just kind of creating a little bit of an opening in the sky here is really kind of all I'm going for. This is pretty simple. Don't have a lot of paint on the brush, and I'm really just kind of applying this, letting it dry briefly, and then going back and applying a little bit more, create a little bit of this opening in the sky, and then I can paint in my little moon. It's going to be a very dark painting. This will be a night painting. And I really wanted to have as a focal point this little town way off in the distance. So I'm using that same pile of gray mixture that I used for the sky. And I've just kind of sketched in a simple outline of some rooftops and some chimneys. And I'm just blocking this in completely in my gray tone color. I've been thinking about this painting for a while, and I really wanted to do something that was a kind of a night scene and kind of an old town, and I really wanted to add a wagon, somebody that's just kind of riding in a wagon and with a horse or horse-drawn wagon. So and just kind of keep it a lot of mood, a lot of atmosphere, keeping it very dark. Honestly, this painting didn't take me long. I was able to finish it in 2 days, and I was able to do it within about 4 hours total. I'm using my airbrush now. Just wanted to lay in just a little softness. I've mixed a pale yellow in my airbrush using titanium white and cad yellow, and wanted to get that kind of misted in there, kind of pushing it off into the distance, and then I can go ahead and layer in this next little part of the town that's just a little bit closer, so it's going to be a little bit darker. And I'm going just a little bit darker right now because I will be adding the airbrush again, and that will kind of lighten up this value. So I'm going a little bit darker in my value here, just mixed a charcoal gray, which is again blue, blue and burnt umber, and just the tiniest bit of carbon black. But I'm laying this in nice and dark. That way, when I use my airbrush and I spray in some of that mist color, it'll help to change that value to the proper value that I'm kind of needing. So it still seems like it's off in the distance, but still a little bit closer than the furthest most point of those rooftops in the very back. And since I'm using acrylic paint, it dries very quickly. I can keep working it. I'm just using my blow dryer to kind of speed up the drying process so I can keep going here. I wanted to bring in some windows, a little bit of light shining through those windows, and I've just mixed kind of a pale orange color to accomplish that. So now I'm coming back through and spraying that. You can see how it changes my value system, and it helps to put it on the right plane that I'm kind of needing. Still wanting to keep it distant, keep it soft, add that mist, and help to really kind of push this little city way back into the distance. And this is helping me to achieve that mood that I'm looking for. I want to have a really foggy, atmospheric painting here, or a scene here. So I'm bringing in these trees now, and this is just another value. I'm going a little bit darker now with my value, still using that charcoal gray, and laying that in, but I want to have several tree trunks that are sort of receding in the back, and then as I move forward I'll go a little bit darker with my value system and keep adding that charcoal gray and just darkening it up to the point that I'm just using pure midnight black or carbon black. So I first wanted to kind of get these laid in. You can see that I've used my charcoal pencil, kind of helped me to give a bit of a guide here so I can see what I'm trying to do. I've also laid in my road, at least the contours of the road. I don't get too detailed with my sketches since I'm going to be painting right over them. It's nothing more than just a nice road map for me. But I wanted to get these distant trees kind of painted in first, because I will go back with my airbrush and add a little bit more mist, and I will spray over the trunks, which again in turn will help to lighten up that value and push those back a little bit more into the distance. This is going to be an exercise in contrast. This is going to have an enormous amount of contrast, and I love contrast, and I'm thinking a lot about my value system and my contrast, and thinking a lot about where everything is kind of in that value system, so that I can keep everything on the correct plane, and that'll help to achieve that illusion of distance. I'm also thinking a lot about my composition here. I spent a lot of time kind of thinking about this painting, and I probably spent about a week just kind of painting it in my mind and thinking about it, and I did a real rough sketch as well on just a simple piece of paper. That way I kind of knew where I was heading with this. I'm using my fan brush and just kind of laying in some real simple leaf patterns here, using that same carbon gray color, charcoal gray color that I've mixed. And then I can go back here with my rigger brush and just kind of cap off those leaves a little bit, kind of improve the basic shape and patterns that I was looking for. This will be my first eye stopper here off to the left. I wanted to have a nice clump of trees here. And once again, it's just kind of to help lead the eye more to the center of the painting, more toward that village in the back. And so I wanted to create this natural eye stopper that would really assist with my composition. Keeping it all very, very dark, and still using that charcoal gray, because I don't want to go to my darkest black quite yet. These are still sort of in the midground, so they obviously need to be a lot darker than say the village in the back, but still creating that illusion that they're just a little closer now, so that we're going to be using that gray tone. Now I'm coming back with my airbrush. As I said, I wanted to kind of create some more atmosphere and mist and kind of push these trees back a little bit, and as you see, it's kind of lightened my value as well. Now I'm coming back with more of that charcoal black or carbon black, and my blue and my burnt umber, creating that just kind of creating that darker gray or darker gray tone, because these trees I want to have them a little bit closer in my value. And now I'm coming back with pure carbon black, because that tree is going to be a lot closer than the others. And so once again, just thinking about my value system, and I'm creating that illusion of depth and distance by just creating these layers of different values. Now I can just finish this tree off and add those old branches now and some tree limbs. And this is just pure carbon black and nothing else. And since it's darker, it really helps to push the rest of those trees back, especially since I'm adding in these limbs, and just by overlapping in front of those distant trees assists with that effort to really create some depth in this painting. And I'm a really big fan of depth. I really love to create that illusion that there's some distance and there's things kind of going on way off in the distance. And I think it adds just a lot of interest to the painting. All right, so we've got some really close leaves that are kind of poking out here at the top of the painting, and I'm just kind of taking my time, and I'm just trying to paint these in as if they're really close and we can see all the shape there. And this will be my closest foreground tree, so it's going to be a very large tree, and I'm painting all this in carbon black. All right, and this will be where we're going to perch our little owl. So I wanted to have a little bit of an arm kind of sticking out here on this tree where our little owl can perch. Okay, once again, kind of coming back in with my airbrush to add a little bit more fog, create some mood. And now we've got our little owl. So this is just a simple little owl here. I want him kind of staring back at the viewer here and kind of looking over his shoulder. So using pure carbon black here, keeping it nice and dark, just like the tree that it's sitting on. And once again, that'll help to really kind of push everything back in the distance. So I've come back and I've taken that charcoal gray and I've kind of lightened it a little bit more, but still keeping it fairly dark. We don't need a lot of detail, but just some simple brush strokes here to kind of give the indication we've got some feather formations here on our owl. And then I'm just using a really pale yellow for the eyes. And that's about all we really kind of need for our owl. And then using that same light gray that we painted on the feathers, we're going to just kind of come in and create some bark on the tree here. And that moonlight's kind of casting a bit of some light here on the left side of that tree. And so we can bring in just a couple simple brush strokes to give that indication that we've got some bark here on the tree. And do the same on the tree right behind it. Since these are closer, we want a little bit more detail. And we don't have to worry about such detail on those far trees. All right, just kind of creating some clumps of grass here, some long blades of grass, and kind of create a little bit of some shadows that we can kind of paint in. That kind of helps to create some more depth and some layer to the painting. Now I'm using my filbert brush, and I'm just going back into that light gray mixture, which is blue and umber, and just sort of dry brushing on just a little bit of movement into the dirt path. And you don't need a lot of paint on your brush, and just kind of keep it horizontal so that your brush strokes are kind of moving in the right direction, since this is going to be a flat dirt path here. Adding a little bit lighter tones here, just kind of lighten the value slightly by adding a little bit of titanium white to that gray mixture, as if we've got a little bit of moonlight kind of dancing along the dirt road. Now I'm flecking on speckling on some little paint speckles with my fan brush. I just wanted to get kind of the indication of a little bit of gravel, little bitty stones and pebbles, and then I can also kind of dot those on with my little liner brush. Get that all nice and dry, and then we can keep layering on top of that. I wanted to put some ruts in the road, as if this is a well-traveled, very worn road. Several wagons have crossed this path many times and sort of created some wear in the road here. So I'm just using pure carbon black here, and I'm just kind of creating kind of a horizontal stroke and just kind of making it a little bit jagged and getting those ruts put in here. So that kind of gives that indication. We got an old worn road here. It's been well traveled. Got these wagon tracks kind of worn into the road. And we'll have a little bit of grass that's kind of growing here in the road, just a little bit, just using that carbon black. This is a very simple palette. Certainly, mostly we just use black and shades of gray and blue, and of course some of the pale yellow that we have in the sky and in the windows of the village in the back. So I want to get all this kind of worked in here, because of course as we paint in the wagon, that's going to be the primary feature to this painting. So I wanted to get all this kind of laid in first, and then when I know where everything kind of lives, then I'll be able to build that wagon in here. But this is just the process I like to do. I like to kind of just work in segments throughout the painting, and then get everything kind of figured out with my composition, and then that's going to make it much easier for me to figure out where I want that wagon to be. So we're going to bring in some little contrast here with some blades of grass in front of the darker blades, and again just creating a lot of contrast here in the painting. We're going to have a lot of shadows and very pale light that's kind of getting cast from that moon way off in the distance. And we're just about ready to go ahead and start drawing in our wagon. And I'm just going to use my charcoal pencil. And I didn't show it, but I went ahead and just kind of threw in a basic silhouette here of the wagon. Now I'm kind of creating the shadow. I want to have the shadow cast. So I'm first kind of laying in some dark charcoal gray into the ground here, and because we're going to have some shadow from the wagon, and as well as those wheels, and some of the moonlight's going to kind of be filtering through that. So first kind of lay in that dark gray mixture, and then we can really start to work at bringing in some more of that moonlight, which I'm kind of working on right now, kind of coming back with that kind of blue-gray mixture, lighting it up with a little bit of titanium white, and then kind of going around the shadows, and that really is going to help to cause those shadows that I've painted in to really kind of pop out a little bit better. But just keeping that horizontal stroke and kind of keep it jagged and kind of bounce around, because this is going to be a kind of a rocky dirt path, so it's not going to be very smooth. We'll have a lot of pebbles and uneven surfaces. So, but really, as I come back and kind of lighten up the ground a little bit around the shadows, that's really going to help the shadows to really come out and distinguish themselves. So obviously, we're going to have a bit of a moon cast shadow here. And sometimes these moons can be so bright that they can even cast shadows at nighttime. kind of bringing in some more rocks here and some pebbles. And now it's time to go ahead and start blocking in our horse. So I'm using just carbon black now. And I want this all to be in black. It's going to be really dark, not a whole lot of detail. But by first painting in, blocking in that underpainting of that silhouette, then I can come back with some lighter shades of gray and start to form the contours of the highlights on our horse, as well as on our wagon. So I'm just kind of drawing in a little bit more here now, just to kind of give myself a good bit of a guide. And I find in doing this, it's just kind of easier to work in small segments. I'll start with the horse, then kind of move into the front wheels, and then I can move into the people and kind of work my way down from left to right. That way I'm not going to be getting my hand in the way or smearing paint, which is always a terrible thing to do. So a little method to the madness here. All right, we're going to have a little bit of silver lining here from that moonlight. So we'll kind of get that painted in here on our little horse. And I'll be bringing in a lamp as well, which will also cast some more yellowish orange silver lining around the lamp as I paint that in here in a bit. But really it's just pretty simple, and just keeping the brushstrokes simple. There's not a lot of detail, but we can kind of create illusion of detail because we've done this dark underpainting. And then some simple brush strokes, and it looks like a lot more detail than there really is. All right, so we'll move from the horse now into our first wagon wheel and get that kind of all blocked in here in our charcoal black. And then still following the same sort of pattern, moving into our blue-gray. We have different values of that blue-gray as we get it from dark to lighter, and that will kind of to help to create that illusion as we have just a little bit of light cast on the left side of this wagon from that moon. So just taking my time, using my rigger brush, using very thin brush strokes, just taking my time. Really got to kind of slow down here. There's no rush here, and really just try to get the proper brush stroke so that get all that detail kind of worked in. Okay, now we can kind of paint in our little people here. They got the little hats on and kind of wearing their clothes here, and we can get that kind of worked in. I apologize if you can hear all that background noise. I've got a bunch of teenagers upstairs having a little get together, and they're being quite loud, so I apologize for that, but hopefully it's not too loud for you to be able to hear my commentary on this painting. So we're going to get this silhouette painted and blocked in here real quickly on our people, and just kind of focusing on this particular section. We can start working on our folks here now. So I've gone ahead and kind of hand drawn in a guide for our lamp, and just kind of really just kind of painted a pale orange color, and then I'm going to come back after I dry this. I'm going to bring in my airbrush and kind of create a nice halo, a really soft halo of light, and then that will kind of give us the illusion that this is kind of radiating some light. So just a simple little yellow, pale yellow mixture that I've mixed in my airbrush, and get that nice little halo effect. And then you saw me use my felt tip pen there. I like that felt tip pen because I can get some nice thin lines with it. Alright, now we can kind of start bringing in some of the highlights here on our people. Once again, just like the horse, some simple brush strokes just to kind of imply that we've got some wrinkles in the clothing as they're sitting here. in the wagon, and I'm just using a pale gray mixture to accomplish this, just like I've done here previously. And then I've mixed a very pale yellow with cad yellow and titanium white, because we're going to obviously have some silver lining glowing from that lamp here that's going to be hitting our people here off to the left on their clothes and their hat, kind of reflecting on the horse's back as well. And that just kind of build a little bit of interest here. It's a very gray tone painting, no doubt about it, but it's kind of the nice thing about the contrast when you kind of bring in that sudden burst of yellow. Really helps to create some really interesting contrast and build some interest for this painting. So again, not a whole lot of detail needs to go into this. We really want to keep our shadows and keep with the theme of the painting. It's a very dark, kind of murky painting. My daughter said it reminded her of Sleepy Hollow, so I guess this is kind of our Sleepy Hollow painting. A little bit spooky, I suppose. But that wasn't my intent. Just wanted to have a nice, gentle painting of people riding in their wagon, trying to get home late at night. Maybe they're at a party, or maybe they went a couple towns over to visit some family, and now it's time to head on home, and they've worn the day away, and they're tired, and they're just ready to get home. So trying to hurry home. And it's nice to kind of create these stories with your paintings. The paintings, it's really nice to have a story that somebody can form in their own mind of kind of what's going on here. And that too can add some real great interest to the painting. So we're going to block in the rest of this wagon now, and just following the exact same pattern that we've been doing. Get it all blocked in our charcoal gray, and then we can just bring in subtle highlights that can kind of form a little bit of indication of old wood slats that were kind of constructed to build this wagon. And we've got our axles here, and we've got our wheels, and I'm just coming back with my charcoal pencil just so I can kind of figure out where kind of all the segments are, and that'll kind of be my guide so that I can figure out how I want to kind of put this together. So from this point, I'm just kind of using a real dry brush technique. I have very, very little paint on my brush now, and I'm just skimming the surface of this, and I'm letting a lot of that underpainting show through, because that really creates sort of a weather-aged look on this wood, and kind of gives it that really kind of old, this is an old, well-worn wagon. It's been out in the elements, and you can achieve that through very thin layers of paint that are very transparent and will allow that dark underpainting to show through. And so I just love that technique, and it really kind of gives that aged look about the wagon here. And this works well for anything you want to have look old. You can do it for the side of old buildings and barns, and you could do it for tree bark, and it's got a lot of good applications. Obviously I used it for the road as well. Just very thin layers of paint that you're just dry brush skimming right on over that underpainting is a very effective technique. So we get the rest of these wagon wheels kind of blocked in here real quickly using our carbon black. And then once we get that kind of all blocked in, from that point on, it's just going to be a matter of just adding the detail, adding the silver lining, and that'll really help to kind of create some contrast and really help to show the different segments and contours of this wagon. So I'm just kind of erasing all my charcoal marks now that I've got it blocked in, and you don't want to forget to do that. Sometimes I've actually forgotten to do that in the past, and sometimes some of those charcoal those charcoal guides that I use still showing there, and that's never a good thing. So make sure to get that all kind of erased away. All right, so now we can start to bring in the silver lining here and on these wagon wheels, and that'll help to cause those to really pop out now. And they're going to be hitting some of that lamp light, so we're going to get a little bit of yellow silver lining there as well, close to that lamp. And that'll really give that illusion that we've got a nice glow from our lamp that's kind of reflecting on this wagon and around those wheels. So we're getting close to the end of this painting now, and I appreciate you tuning in. I hope this has been helpful for you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you've not done so already. I appreciate your comments and your support, and I'll come back here real soon with another exciting painting. So thanks a lot, and have a wonderful day.